Hello and welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me again for another night of Facebook Live. I also want to recognize those that catch me on the replay from YouTube and or SoundCloud. It is indeed a blessing to be here with you tonight as I am your host, Tricia Bray Smith, author, educator, and public speaker. Tonight we're going to talk about your mind was already made up. Your mind was already made up. And it's just a conversation to tell you or to show you how powerful the mind is. You know how sometimes we mention we were caught off guard or it caught me by surprise. Well, tonight I want to share with you and encourage you to take a different perspective on that. Your mind was already made up. And so this is what we're talking about here tonight. So as you guys are logging on with me, please go ahead and like and share this video. Please go ahead and like and share this video. I have tagged some of you guys sometimes that have said that you're not getting the videos at 10 o'clock, but every night at 10 p.m. I am here, right here on this platform. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I did put the link right there in the comment section. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel so that you can get those replays on demand, especially if they're not coming across your timeline, please go ahead and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then that way you can get all the content that is here on demand straight from your phone, because YouTube plays from a lot of our phones, and so you're able to get that video if you miss our lives at 10 o'clock p.m. every night. So while you're logging on here with me, as I see a few of you coming on, give me a shout out. Let me know that you're here. Send me some hearts. Hit that like button. Just let me know that you are here with me tonight. As I won't hold you long tonight, I'm just going to hold you briefly. But I just wanted to share with you how when we are exposed or when we come into contact with certain things that cause us to have a reaction, how our mind was already made up. So I tell you all the time that everything that is in our environment, every experience that we have, every thing we touch, everything we smell, everything we see, all of these things creates a thought or creates a perception in our mind. Our mind absorbs everything in our environment, whether consciously or unconsciously. We take it in. This brain of ours, this mind. Hey, Sharika, how are you, baby? It's like a sponge. Hey, Karen. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. So tonight we're talking about how our mind is already made up. Our mind is already made up. Everything that we encounter in our environment creates a thought. Okay? So everything that we are immersed with these senses of ours. We have 5 senses, and then we have some that say we have 6 senses. So whatever the case, it creates a thought or a perception. Now, what happens is the initial reaction that we give or that we perceive when we come into the stimuli creates a reaction or behavior or perception, or we automatically are triggered with a thought based on past experiences or based upon how positive or negative that experience was. Okay? So what happens is, if I have an experience, like say that say someone hurt me emotionally, say somebody said something that hurt my feelings, so that created a thought. Not only a thought with whatever was said, what I heard, but also a thought with what I seen from the person who probably said that. So I have a thought, it made me feel a certain way, and so that triggers, therefore, a reaction. So whatever that reaction was, good, bad, or indifferent, it's stuck there in my mind. So when someone else comes along that triggers that initial thought or that initial behavior that we had, we react. How we react is based upon the previous experience that we had before. Because if we did not call those feelings or those emotions into account at the time of the initial reaction, our mind had already made up how we would respond the next time something like that or similar happens. So our minds are already made up even before something happens to us. So this is why somebody can say something to provoke anger in us or to provoke us to act out verbally or to provoke us to act out physically, because in our minds, if we haven't caused those thoughts into subjection or into submission and to control or to discipline that or to think about how we would respond the next time that happened, that mind is already made up. And so we attack or we react before we know it. Did you ever wonder how sometimes we react to something and we say, oh, it caught us off guard? And did you ever think to wonder, why is it that we responded that way? It's because our mind was already made up. Our mind was already made up. It was just a trigger that caused the response or the reaction that manifested at that time. And it may have had nothing to do with that person that did it this time. It may just be a trigger or a thought that took us back to something familiar. And being that the first experience created an emotional, unpleasant feeling, that may just be our way of protecting ourselves from feeling that again. So we hear things that are really not what we're hearing. It's because we didn't listen or our perception was off based upon the experiences of the past. Our minds are already made up. Our minds are made up because we don't want to be hurt again. We don't want to feel that emotional hurt or that emotional trauma. We don't want to feel that. So the body has a way of defending itself. Our mind has a way of defending the emotions, a way of protecting ourselves. This is just the way that we are created. So, have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you say something and maybe they didn't perceive it the way that you sent the message out or the way that you intended for the message to be sent out? You ever wonder why it would cause somebody to be upset or then cause them to go on a defensive side of it and it triggers a response that you weren't expecting? This is why people's minds are already made up based upon their experiences. And they assume that because it happened this way before with somebody else, that you're out to get them, or your intent is to harm them, just like they have been harmed in the past. So then they begin to attack or to begin to go on the defense, and it's a way of them protecting themselves because they haven't already dealt with or subject their previous thoughts or their previous experiences into submission. Everything that we think is not necessarily as we think it. Everything that we hear is not necessarily as we hear it. Everything that we take in through our senses is subject to our perception. And this is where our communications, this is where our behaviors, this is where our relationships then begin to break down. So guys, think about it next time when you're caught off guard. Think about it next time you're having a conversation and then the person you're having a conversation with, now all of a sudden their feelings are hurt or they begin to attack you and you wonder where it comes from. It's because our minds are so powerful that our minds are already made up even before we're able to respond. And if we don't have discipline, if we don't have self-control, if we don't cause our thoughts into submission and subject our thoughts to change, then this is a result of what we failed to do. We failed to cause our thoughts into submission. Our mind is powerful. It is powerful, powerful, powerful. It's hard to put a sponge in water and that sponge not absorb the contents of whatever's in that container, right? That sponge is going to get wet. And this is like our minds. And we have to deal with the thoughts of our minds if we're responding to things, if we're reacting to things, if things are catching us off guard. We have to be intentional about how we deal with the thoughts that are in our mind, because it controls everything that we do. So your mind's already made up. You've already formed a thought, even before you know it, even before you're able to respond. So this is why sometimes we can get caught up in some situations and then we think back and wonder how we got there, or wonder why it ended up that way, or wonder why we fell out. Our mind was already made up. So I think now back at some of the things that caught me off guard and how I reacted and how I went on attack mode. And it was because I haven't dealt with the initial pains and the initial experiences, you know. And so the content that I was putting in had a lot to do with the content or the behaviors that was shown. So I hope that something was said here that caused you to think about your own thoughts and how powerful your mind is. Guys, I put the link here. If you would like to be my guest and join me for the Worthy of Abundance Summit that's coming up August 5th through 8th, I put the link there so you can get your ticket. Also, for you guys that are not getting my Facebook Live notifications and you think that you have missed out on some content, or you would like to go back and look at content that has already been aired previously, I put the link also to our YouTube channel. Please go to that YouTube channel and like and subscribe to our channel. You now never have to worry about missing another broadcast. Also, there is my website. If you'd like to know what classes, courses, or events I have available, you can visit my website for other resources and videos and content there as well. All right, I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate you being here with me. I didn't want to hold you long on this beautiful Saturday night. I appreciate you taking the time to be here with me. I am your host, Tricia Bray Smith, author, educator, and public speaker. I'll see you right here again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Good night, everybody.